Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Experiment. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Jessie, and oh my gosh, we have such a good one for you today.
We really do. So today we're diving into something that I feel like literally everyone has an opinion on right now. And I mean everyone. Like you cannot go through a week without someone either talking about their calorie deficit or asking if their doctor will prescribe them Ozempic.
Right. It is literally everywhere. And I think what's so interesting is that these two things, the classic calories in, calories out model and Ozempic, they kind of represent two totally different philosophies about weight and health, you know?
Totally. And we're not here to tell you which one is right or wrong. Honestly, that's kind of the whole point. There isn't a simple answer. But we're going to dig into the science, the culture, the ethics, all of it. So buckle up. This is going to be a good conversation.
Yes. Okay, so let's just start at the beginning because people throw around calories in, calories out like it's this universal law of physics. And in some ways, it kind of is, but it's also way more complicated than that.
Yeah, okay, so for anyone who maybe isn't super familiar, the basic idea is that your body weight is essentially determined by the balance between the energy you consume, that's the calories in part, and the energy your body uses, which is calories out. So if you eat more than you burn, you gain weight. If you burn more than you eat, you lose weight. And on a thermodynamic level, that is technically true. It's the first law of thermodynamics. Energy can't just appear or disappear. But here's where people kind of oversimplify it, right? The calories outside of the equation is not just about how much you exercise. Right, because there's your basal metabolic rate, the energy your body burns just to stay alive. Breathing, keeping your heart beating, all of that. And it varies so much from person to person. So much. And it depends on your muscle mass, age, genetics, hormones. Two people can eat the exact same calories and have completely different outcomes. I have friends who can eat way more than me and just nothing. And then there's me, same. I feel very seen right now. But yeah, and there's also the quality of the calories too, right? 100 calories from an apple and 100 calories from a candy bar, they don't do the same thing to your body. The fiber, the sugar, the way your insulin responds. Exactly. And then there's the psychological side too. Tracking calories can be really effective for some people, but for others it becomes obsessive and genuinely damaging. There's a really thin line between being mindful of what you eat and developing a disordered relationship with food. That is such a good point, and it gets glossed over when people say, just eat less and move more. Food is emotional, it's cultural, it's social, it's not just fuel. Right, and when you restrict calories long term, your body actually fights back. It lowers your metabolic rate, increases hunger hormones like ghrelin, literally nicknamed the hunger hormone, and decreases satiety hormones. Your body is doing everything it can to make you eat more, which is kind of wild. Your body is working against your goals. And this is a huge reason why people who lose weight through calorie restriction alone often gain it back. The research on long-term weight maintenance through diet alone isn't great, honestly. Yeah, some studies suggest most people who lose significant weight through diet alone regain it within 5 years. That doesn't mean calorie awareness is useless. It definitely has its place. But for a lot of people, willpower alone just isn't a sustainable strategy. And that's not a character flaw. It's literally biology.
Yes, and that's a perfect segue to Ozempic, because drugs like this address exactly the biological mechanisms that make traditional dieting so hard. Okay, so Ozempic, the brand name for semaglutide, was originally approved for type 2 diabetes management. The weight loss effect kind of came as a very noticed side effect. A very, very noticed side effect. Like celebrities were not subtle about it. But okay, so what is it actually doing? Because I think a lot of people have heard of GLP-1 but have no idea what that means.
Right. So GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. It's a hormone that your gut naturally produces when you eat, and its job is basically to signal to your brain that you're full, to slow down how fast your stomach empties, and to help regulate blood sugar by stimulating insulin release. So it's doing a lot of things at once. So semaglutide semaglutide is a GLP-1 receptor agonist, which means it mimics this hormone, but it lasts much, much longer in your body than the natural version, like days instead of minutes. So you basically have this prolonged signal telling your brain, hey, we're full, we don't need food right now.
Which sounds kind of amazing. And clinical trials have shown people losing like 15–20% of their body weight. That's kind of unprecedented for a medication, right?
Yeah, before this, most weight loss medications achieved maybe 5 to 8%, often with serious safety concerns. The results from semaglutide trials are genuinely impressive. And what I find really fascinating is that people who take it often describe, like, the food noise quieting down. I've heard people say that, and it really makes you think, because for so long the narrative was just don't think about food so much, have more self-control. And then people on Ozempic say the obsessive thoughts about food just stopped. And it's like, oh, that was never a willpower issue. That was neurological. Exactly. And if someone's brain is constantly bombarding them with food-related thoughts and cravings, and there's research suggesting people with obesity may have dysregulated reward signaling in the brain related to food, then telling them to eat less is like telling someone with depression to just be happier. It completely misses the point. That's such a good analogy. And this actually feeds into, no pun intended, the cultural debate around Ozempic, because there's this really strong sentiment that taking Ozempic is the easy way out, like somehow it's cheating. Yes, I have complicated feelings about it. There's this deeply ingrained cultural belief that thinness should be earned through hard work and discipline, and if you use a drug to get there, somehow it doesn't count, or you haven't really addressed the root problem. Right. But then, on the other hand, nobody says taking blood pressure medication is the easy way out. Nobody says using glasses instead of doing eye exercises is cheating. Like, we use medical interventions for health conditions all the time, and obesity is, classified as a chronic disease. So why is this different? That's the question. And a big part of it is that our society has a really complicated, often ugly relationship between body weight and morality. Being overweight has been moralized for so long. People attach character judgments of laziness and lack of discipline to it, and Ozempic disrupts that narrative in a way that makes some people uncomfortable. It really does. And some people in the body positivity community also have mixed feelings about Ozempic, not because it's cheating, but because they worry it reinforces the idea that smaller bodies are inherently more desirable or healthy. That's a legitimate conversation to have as well.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's not a simple Ozempic good, judgment bad situation. There are real nuances on all sides. But I think where most reasonable people land is if someone is struggling with their health and a medical intervention helps them, the judgment piece needs to go. Like, full stop.
Hard agree. Okay, so let's talk about who actually benefits from each approach, because I think this is really important. Because it's not like calorie counting is useless. It genuinely works really well for some people.
Yeah, for sure. If someone is fairly metabolically healthy and their weight gain has been tied to lifestyle changes, maybe they got a desk job, stopped moving as much, started eating more processed food, then being more mindful about calories and improving food quality can be really effective and arguably more sustainable long-term if it becomes a genuine lifestyle shift.
Right. And there's something to be said for the sense of agency that comes with it. Some people find that understanding what they're eating and making intentional choices feels empowering. It builds confidence in good habits beyond just the weight. Absolutely. But then there's a whole other group of people who've been struggling with obesity for years or decades, tried every diet, who may have underlying metabolic or hormonal issues. For them, the just eat less approach has often been a cycle of loss and regain that has done more psychological damage than good. Yes, and for those people, something like Ozempic could be genuinely life-changing, not just for the weight loss itself, but for all the downstream health benefits. Reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, better blood sugar control, less strain on joints. Like, the health outcomes go way beyond just a number on a scale. Right. And actually, there was that big trial, the SELECT trial, I think it was called, that showed that semaglutide significantly reduced the risk of serious cardiovascular events in people with obesity, even without diabetes, that's a big deal. That's not just aesthetics. That is a massive deal. And I think that reframes the whole conversation from weight loss drug to cardiovascular risk reduction medication, which is a very different thing, right? Very different. Okay, but let's not be all sunshine and roses here because there are real side effects and risks with Ozempic that we need to talk about because I think in the hype, that part sometimes gets minimized. Absolutely. Yeah. So the most common side effects are gastrointestinal: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. And for a lot of people, especially when they first start or increase their dose, these can be pretty significant. Like, not, oh, I felt a little queasy level, but genuinely disrupting daily life.
Yeah, and there are some rarer but more serious concerns. There have been reports of pancreatitis, though the causal link is still being studied. There are some concerns about thyroid tumors. It was found in rodent studies, and it's currently contraindicated for people with a history of certain thyroid cancers. And then there's Ozempic face.
Oh, Ozempic face, which is a thing. So when people lose weight quickly, they can lose fat in their face, which can make them look gaunt or aged. And this is less of a health concern and more of a cosmetic one, but it's something people genuinely weren't expecting, and it's led to a lot of conversation about how we approach rapid weight loss.
And there's also the muscle loss issue. When you're losing weight rapidly, any method, not just Ozempic, without resistance training and adequate protein intake, you can lose significant muscle mass along with fat. And that has real long-term metabolic implications.
Yeah, and it applies to both approaches, whether you're on a calorie deficit or using Ozempic. If you're not getting enough protein and doing strength training, you're likely losing muscle, lowering your metabolic rate, and making future weight management harder. Lifestyle habits still matter even on medication. Totally, they're not mutually exclusive. The most effective approach for most people is probably some combination, using medication to help manage appetite while also making lifestyle changes that support long-term health. Right. And then there's the sustainability question with Ozempic specifically, which I think is one of the most important and under-talked about parts of this whole conversation. Because here's the thing, the current evidence suggests that if you stop taking it, the weight comes back.
Yeah, studies have shown that within about a year of stopping semaglutide, people regain around two-thirds of the weight they lost, which brings up this question of, is this a lifelong medication? And is that okay? I mean, people take blood pressure medication for life, thyroid medication for life, antidepressants for years or decades. Why would this be different? But I also understand why some people are uncomfortable with a drug indefinitely, especially one that's relatively new with long-term effects we don't fully know yet. That's fair. Semaglutide has been around since 2017 for diabetes, so we have some data, but not decades of real-world data on using it specifically for weight management in otherwise healthy people. And that uncertainty is legitimate to acknowledge.
Yeah, and that's where a good conversation with a doctor comes in. This isn't a decision to make based on TikTok or because a friend lost 20 pounds. The right candidate is someone evaluated by a healthcare provider with clear health goals who understands the risks.
And who ideally is also getting support around nutrition and lifestyle, because the drug works best as part of a comprehensive approach, not just take the shot and eat whatever you want.
Exactly. Okay, so I really want to get into the ethics piece now because I think this is where it gets really, really interesting and also really uncomfortable in some ways.
Oh, yes, the access conversation. Okay, so Ozempic, let's just be real about what it costs. In the US, without insurance, it can be over $1,000 a month, it's wild. It is genuinely wild. That is not accessible for the vast majority of people. And the people who tend to suffer most from the health consequences of obesity are often the same people who have the least access to good healthcare, healthy food, safe places to exercise, and, you guessed it, expensive medications.
Right. And so right now, Ozempic in a lot of places is kind of a rich person's medication, or at least a well-insured person's medication. medication, which creates this really troubling dynamic where the people arguably need it the most have the least access to it. And on top of that, there have been real shortage issues. When Ozempic became popular for weight loss, people with type 2 diabetes who actually needed it for blood sugar management couldn't get it. And that's a serious problem. That's a really serious problem, and it speaks to broader pharmaceutical system issues. How drugs get prioritized, how they're priced, who gets access. Not a problem with the drug itself, but with the system around it. Totally. And there's been discussion about compounding pharmacies offering cheaper versions of semaglutide during the shortage. But the FDA has cracked down because there are real quality and safety concerns with compounded versions that haven't gone through the same testing. Yeah, the compounding thing is tricky. Like, I understand why people pursue it. The cost barrier is enormous, but the risks are real. You don't necessarily know what you're getting. And with a medication that involves injections, that's not something to be cavalier about.
Right, and this raises a bigger question. Should a medication this effective for a condition this prevalent be accessible to more people? Should insurance be required to cover it?
Personally, I think yes. If we're treating obesity as a chronic disease, which more and more medical organizations are, then medications for it should be covered like any other chronic condition. But pharmaceutical pricing is its own whole nightmare.
A whole other episode, honestly. But yeah, the equity piece is really important to keep in mind. Because if the conversation is just, should I try Ozempic or count calories, it's already happening from a position of privilege in some ways.
Yeah, really well put. Okay, so let's take stock of where we've gotten to. I want to hear your personal take too, Jesse. Not medical advice, obviously, but as someone who's thought about this a lot, what would you say? Honestly, I'd say both things can be true. Like, the calories in, calories out model has real merit as a framework for understanding energy balance, and making better food choices and moving your body more is always going to be good for your health, full stop. But it's also incomplete, and for a lot of people, it's just not enough on its own. And Ozempic, or the class of drugs it belongs to, the GLP-1 agonists, represents, I think, genuinely one of the most significant advances in obesity medicine we've ever seen. But it's not a magic bullet, it's not for everyone, and it needs to be used thoughtfully and with medical supervision, and honestly, ideally, alongside lifestyle changes. Yeah, really well said. And for me, the big takeaway is there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The decades of treating weight management like a simple matter of willpower has done enormous harm to individuals, to the way we talk about bodies, to people's mental health and self-worth. Whatever approach helps someone live a healthier, happier life is the right one for them. 100%. And the future looks really different. We're already seeing newer GLP-1 drugs like tirzepatide, which combines GLP-1 with another hormone called GIP, showing even more dramatic results. This space is moving incredibly fast. Yeah, and I think hopefully as these medications become more established, the stigma around using them will decrease, and we'll start to think about weight management the way we manage any other chronic condition, with a toolkit that includes medication, lifestyle changes, and mental health support.
Yes, and I also just want to say, because I feel like it needs to be said, your worth as a person has absolutely nothing to do with your weight or your body size. Whether you're counting calories, taking Ozempic, or neither, you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And any conversation about health that forgets that is missing the most important thing.
Beautifully said. I think we should start wrapping up. I feel like we could talk about this for another 3 hours, and maybe we will in a future episode. We really could. There's so much more to dig into. Psychological aspects of food relationships, sleep and stress, the gut microbiome. I mean, we've barely scratched the surface. We really haven't. So, quick recap for anyone who wants the highlight reel. Calories in, calories out. A real principle, but an oversimplification. Your metabolism is affected by hormones, genetics, age, muscle mass, sleep, stress, the types of food you eat. It's a lot more than just math.
Right, and calorie restriction can be effective, but it's hard to sustain long term, partly because your body literally fights back, lowering metabolism, increasing hunger. And for some people, the focus on calories can be psychologically harmful.
Ozempic and the GLP-1 class of drugs are genuinely groundbreaking. They work by mimicking a hormone that signals fullness and regulates blood sugar, leading to significant and medically meaningful weight loss for many people. And the cardiovascular benefits appear to go beyond just the weight loss itself. But they do have real side effects, especially gastrointestinal ones. Long-term data is still accumulating. Weight tends to return when you've stopped the medication, and they work best alongside lifestyle changes, not instead of them. The cultural debate around easy way out reflects deep-seated moralization of body weight that doesn't serve anyone. Using a medication for a health condition isn't cheating, but there are legitimate, nuanced conversations to be had about body image, societal pressure, and what we're optimizing for.
The access and equity issues are real and serious. Ozempic is currently out of reach for a lot of the people who might benefit most from it, and that's a systemic problem that needs to be addressed.
And ultimately, one size does not fit all. The best approach is whatever is safe, sustainable, and genuinely improves someone's health and quality of life. And that looks different for every single person.
Yes, okay, I feel like that was really comprehensive. Really good. I loved this conversation.
Same, honestly. If you're a listener who learned something new, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this one because this topic is definitely something people have strong opinions about.
Very strong opinions. Find us on all the usual platforms. Leave a comment, send us a message, tell us where you land on this. Are you a calories person? Have you tried or considered Ozempic? We are genuinely curious, and the only judgment-free zone on the internet is right here on the English Experiment.
Truly, no judgment, just curiosity. That's kind of our whole thing. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. This has been the English Experiment. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Jessie.
Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.